Thank God the Toronto Raptors didn't accept this package, because Pascal Siakam has been the major topic of discussion. It's been the guy a lot of people have been talking about this entire summer for the Toronto Raptors, as he's our top guy. He's an unrestricted free agent come next summer, and he's been in a multitude of reports over the course of this offseason about potential trade packages, potential extensions that aren't getting offered, that are getting offered, and this drama just doesn't go away. And now we've had an update, we've had some insight in terms of what the Raptors could have potentially gotten from the major suitor for Pascal Siakam this entire summer, the Atlanta Hawks. And there's one guy which I cannot believe these talks even happened, that they were even ongoing. They got to the point to where they were even reported if this dude wasn't involved. So basically, a report coming from Mike Scotto basically discusses how the Atlanta Hawks were consider a team with the most trade interest in Toronto Raptors forward Pascal Siakam, while talks with Siakam revolved around DeAndre Hunter and AJ Griffin, as we already knew, as well as a draft pick compensation that never materialized. There was a young player the Hawks didn't want to include that's worth noting, as the teams could potentially revisit trade discussions. The report went on to say that the Hawks were unwilling to deal away rookie guard Kobe Bufkin in trade talks for Pascal Siakam. League sources have told Hoops Hype, as coach Quinn Snyder is a big fan of the Michigan guard, who they ended up selecting in the lottery of this year, or just outside the lottery. And apparently the Toronto Raptors considered Kobe Bufkin with the 13th pick, widely noted, widely discussed over the course of this summer. And there's another player which could potentially rejoin talks if things sort of swing back the way of the Toronto Raptors and Hawks getting discussions, is Bogdanovic, who becomes trade eligible come September 16th. And Bogdanovic had a very strong performance out there during the FIBA World Cup. He's on a pretty reasonable contract as well. So we're going to dive into all of this, as Kobe Bufkin was a piece that I think most people were really excited about come the Atlanta Hawks trade discussions. Again, I said it this entire summer. A package of DeAndre Hunter, AJ Griffin, and Kobe Bufkin did not feel like enough for me, especially considering the draft compensation the Atlanta Hawks could potentially provide the Raptors, as they have a lot of picks going out to San Antonio that they dealt away in the DeJounte Murray trade. So it was unlikely there's a package that would really excite Toronto Raptors fans coming back from the Atlanta Hawks. Now, there is an issue of Pascal Siakam's trade value, as he's unwilling to re-sign with any team he's traded to. He wants to stay with the Toronto Raptors, and that's nuking his trade value out there in the open market. So some people were saying, hey, if you don't want to re-sign Pascal Siakam and, you're not getting equal value in return, you just may as well do it if you're not planning on bringing him back, extending him, and letting him walk for nothing. And I completely get the rationale behind that, but these types of packages just aren't at the level of an all-NBA guy. I mean, it only makes sense for the Toronto Raptors to re-sign Pascal, give him the bag, because Kobe Bufkin, yes, he's an encouraging young prospect. He's a guy that's a rookie just outside the lottery, plays a position that the Toronto Raptors could need, backup point guard spot. We'll see if Marquise Noel does end up taking that leap. He's promising on social media as being the greatest Raptor of all time. Malachi Flynn potentially taking a step up, but the Raptors could use a bit more young guard depth, all that type of stuff. But Kobe Bufkin in college doesn't really fill all the needs. I mean, he's explosive, he's athletic, 6'4", so he's a bit long for a guard out there, and average 14 points, close to 5 rebounds, 3 assists. Relatively decent shooter, isn't regarded as one of the best shooters. The encouraging thing about his jump shooting is, the free throw percentage is pretty high. Just a really solid guard that the Toronto Raptors could acquire in a potential Pascal Siakam package. But the fact that he wasn't even involved, the fact that he wasn't even brought up in a guy that's an all-NBA caliber player in Pascal Siakam, averaging 24 points per game, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, 3-point percentage isn't that great, but field goal, he's effective from the field, plays great defense, all that type of stuff, is honestly embarrassing, and it's shocking. And personally, I'm thanking everything, all the basketball gods out there, that the Toronto Raptors didn't go through with this deal, especially if Kobe Bufkin was not involved, because he would be a cool piece, an interesting prospect. As said, Quinn Snyder liked him, the Raptors were high on him in the potential draft. We ended up going with Grady Dick, but the fact that he wasn't even discussed or wasn't even being willing to thrown out there in packages, it's as wild as saying Andrew Nembhard's not a guy that's going to be willing to be thrown into a deal for Pascal Siakam from the Pacers. Just absolutely ludicrous that these deals even potentially were talked about, were discussed if Kobe Bufkin wasn't involved. Because, I mean, DeAndre Hunter's definitely a cool player. AJ Griffin as well. I got his stats up first. 9 points per game in his rookie season. Right, so very solid 3-point shooting, plays good defense, had some big moments for the Atlanta Hawks. Encouraging emerging young prospect. Again, extremely high risk if you're going to be dealing away an all-NBA forward in Pascal Siakam. And as I sort of discussed, DeAndre Hunter's another dude, 15 points per game, solid wing guy, plays the exact same sort of roles as Scotty Barnes and OG Anunoby, right? More of those three, stretch wings, or Scotty Barnes not a stretch wing, but plays that type of defense at same position. I mean, for Pascal Siakam, I showed Pascal Siakam stats. He's an all-NBA caliber player that wants to be in Toronto. And just extend the guy, Masai Ujiri. Forget, given the reins to Scotty Barnes, and there's reports coming out about that, which we will discuss in upcoming videos. But, I mean, keep Pascal Siakam around, have him under contract long-term, and then if you want to trade him next year, things aren't working out with the Scotty Pascal lineup, right? Deal him then. He'll be way more valuable with multiple years locked in on his contract. Don't sell Pascal Siakam for pennies on the dollar. And then it's also brought up that Bogdanovic could be a guy that is thrown out there. This is DeAndre Hunter's contract, again, locked in for multiple seasons. But Bogdanovic, as the report sort of brought up, sort of discussed, right, is another guy that sort of could get thrown into Toronto Raptors consideration. But again, yes, we do need shooting, certainly, but we have Gary Trent Jr. and Grady Dick likely coming off the bench in terms of our current roster construction. Now, maybe if we deal away Pascal, but then DeAndre Hunter will be likely brought in. I mean, if we have Gary and Grady Dick looking to get minutes, the backup 2 position, do we really need a Bogdanovic there? Does that really make sense in terms of what the Toronto Raptors need in terms of roster construction, especially when you consider Bogdanovic's contract is pretty substantial as well, right? It's not a horrible, it's a good value, I'd say, but, 4 years, making $17, $16, $15 million, right? That's a good hunk of change. So you're giving out to Bogdanovic at that point, which, eats into your salary cap. It's long-term money, and for a position that isn't super needed. I mean, we need a bit more center depth, big men. We'll see if Koloko can take that step up next season. Point guard depth, there's a lot of question marks there, but in terms of the wings, those guys, yes, the shooting would definitely be helpful, but, at that sort of guard position, we're rolling with Gary Trent Jr., Grady Dick. We have Dennis Schroeder there now that, Scotty Barnes has moved to the point, then he could be at the 2 as well. Right. Doesn't really make sense as a potential hole to be filled if Pascal Siakam is dealt. So, Masai Ujiri, I've been calling for it this entire summer. Just please extend Pascal Siakam. We can't go into another season with a bunch of free agents. Everyone sort of fighting for their own role minutes, up in their own value in the open market. Just figure things out. Give it to Pascal. Things don't work out long term. I get the people that aren't that encouraged with a Pascal Siakam, Scotty Barnes lineup, but we let Fred VanVleet walk for nothing. And if we let Pascal Siakam go, who's a guy that is worth that big contract he's going to end up getting, I mean, that would be a massive failure for this Toronto Raptors organization, for the front office, just for everyone in general. So please, give Pascal Siakam his bag if he's willing to extend right now. And you're even taking a risk. If Pascal Siakam has a big season this year, he makes an All-NBA team, you want to keep him, and then he could be eligible for a super max extension. I mean, it makes no sense what the Toronto Raptors are doing at this point, so we got to figure it out, and it's not going to be a trade with the Atlanta Hawks where we're not even getting Kobe Bufkin back in a potential trade package. That's just an indicator in terms of what the market is right now for Pascal Siakam, so it is what it is. Let me know what you guys think about this whole entire situation. You guys are the best for making this far. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. It means the world to me. Anyways, I'm signing out. Cheers.